Well, hey everybody, welcome back to your next cast. Thank you so much for checking out another episode. Today, we're going to be throwing that jackhammer chatterbait around. Still the same day that I've made a lot of videos today. Just came out, thought I'd make a few, because I do think I'm going to take a break. So I'm trying to stockpile a bunch of videos that I can show at one time, so I don't have to make them. So we did a video on your failure not being final. So how you overcome that, how you see it as an opportunity. And then we talked about, another video, the last one we did, about how you learn to enjoy the cast, and that's metaphorical for whatever, it takes to reach your ultimate goal. So you got to be casting to do this. If you're doing YouTube, you got to be making videos, you got to be filming. If you're trying to be in shape or get, somewhere in a sport, you got to be working out. You got to be doing the small details on a consistent basis and learn to enjoy those. But then today's lesson is really about fishing. It really is about how to make sure you're maximizing your next cast. So oftentimes in videos, you'll see me make a cast and I'll throw a thumbs up or something like that. And I've had people ask me, like, how do you know that? How do you know you're gonna catch a fish? Or how do you know a fish is right there? And the truth is, I don't actually know. I take that back. Sometimes I see the fish. Or there's a clear indication. You see a ripple, you see a splash, like I just saw one out there. You see something that hints you that a fish is there. But beyond that, it's just looking at a structure and saying, if I were a predatory fish, that's exactly where I would be. And so, it's a matter of analyzing it and then saying, all right, I think a fish is there. Then after you do that, it's a matter of making the right presentation. And here's where I say that from the last video, that learning to enjoy the cast makes a huge difference. Because if you learn to actually, and sorry, there's a plane about to go overhead. But if you're learning from every cast you make and you're practicing while you're fishing, meaning practicing getting better, your cast should get better and better. Your next cast should be better than the one you just did. And when I say better, what I mean is two things: placement and entry into the water. So placement means I'm putting this lure exactly where I want to. So if there is let's say this is a dock, right? And this is the leg, I want to throw it right in front of the leg, or right behind the leg, or right beside the leg, or I want to slide it under the dock. I'm placing it in the exact right spot. Now the thing is, you can place it in the exact right spot, but not have a great entry into the water. And so entry into the water is, how much noise do I make when I go into the water? Is it natural sounding, or a natural falling action, if you will? And so the best way I imitate this is, sometimes I'll actually throw my lure onto an object like land or a dock, and then slowly just bring it off and let it just naturally fall into the water. Because fish know what a natural falling sound is like. Like, they hear leaves, sticks, branches, acorns, nuts, all these other things hit the water all the time, birds, beetles. And so they know what that sounds like versus something that's like, boom, and I see that a lot with fishermen where, they're throwing some big bait or just launching some lure, and it's making this huge splash when it hits the water. And so here's what I tell you. It's kind of like if you're at your house, right? There are certain sounds you just get used to that don't bother you. So when your AC unit turns on or turns off, that doesn't bother you. You're used to hearing that sound. Even if you're in your bedroom and somebody drops a cup in the kitchen, that sound doesn't alarm you, right? That's a normal, natural sound. And so even though those things are falling, right, or making a noise, they don't bother you necessarily. But if you heard somebody drop a glass or a vase and you heard this big shatter or this big boom, like thump, like a dresser fell or something, you would get alarmed. And you would probably get out of your bed or go out of your bedroom and see, what in the world was that? And so, it can kind of work two ways. Sometimes you make that big boom, and if it's far enough away, fish will be like, hey, what was that? Like, I want to, I'm curious as to what that was. Same thing with this vibrating chatterbait here that I have. They might want to come check out what was that. But if the entry is not soft enough and they're close, it might just spook them and they just run. And I've done that a ton of times. And what I've learned is, the softer your presentation is into the water, meaning if you don't disturb that water much at all, that's really good. Or especially with my spinning gear, if you just make a cast so that the fall into the water is natural and so it sounds natural, then it's not gonna alarm the fish as much. It's gonna be something that they're used to, and hopefully you'll have a good result from that. Now, what I'd like to hopefully try to do is show you a few examples, specifically with this chatterbait, just because I love throwing it, I love practicing with it, and who knows, we might even hook into a fish. But I'm gonna show you what I mean by trying to make that soft presentation that goes into the water. That one was okay, not great. But let me show you what you don't want to do. See how it just plopped right into the water? What I typically like to do with my chatterbait is let it slide in, and then I slowly pull right back out. So as soon as it goes in, it comes right back. So I'm gonna try to give you an example of that where you can see it. That was a pretty good one. Typically when I throw like that, I'm not trying to have a good entry. I'm trying to throw beyond wherever I think the fish are and then try to swim right through them. But anyway, that's my advice for your next cast, is really work on making sure that your placement is right. You're putting the bait exactly where you want to put it, but then also make sure that the entry into the water is soft. And what I know is when I do both of those things, when I see a place that looks like a bass should be there and I make the right placement with the right entry and I don't get a bite, I just keep moving, because I'm like, man, if there was a fish there, they should have responded to that. If they didn't, they might not be active, or they don't want what I'm throwing. And so I just keep moving. Again, keep moving, keep casting, and just believing I'm gonna run into them somewhere. And that usually pays off well for me. So anyway, that's my hints, my tips for today. Hope that has been helpful for you so that your next cast is a better cast. Hope you have a good day and a good night. We'll see you next time.